Hey everyone, I just wanted to come in while I can. I'm sneaking some time in between when my baby's sleeping and when she's about to wake up. So I wanted to go over why I personally don't invest in Baltimore as an investor in single family properties. And someone asked me this in the Sub 30K Facebook group. I know some of you guys just aren't on Facebook like that, so I wanted to bring the conversation here to make sure everybody who wanted to hear and is interested in hearing could sort of hear a viewpoint as an investor who's pretty open about not liking it. So I just want to say why I personally don't invest. I still help my clients invest in Baltimore profitably in a way that makes them feel really comfortable with the process, but I really just prepare them for Baltimore and the differences in a Baltimore versus, say, a Baltimore County. And at the end of the day, you can choose whatever you want to do. I work with but I wanted to give you that firsthand account since like 3 people asked me in the same week. So I figured I'd just sort of come out and just speak the truth on it. So I personally don't like Baltimore, and it wasn't because of my tenants. Not of, I've had properties in Virginia, Ohio, Nevada, and Maryland and Baltimore. I will say that my Baltimore tenants, I had to put out, but they weren't terrible. They kept the place up. One just sort of left without notice. He still had a lease, but like he left, but he left it in good condition. So I'm actually okay with that as a landlord because I'd rather that than going to, eviction court. So I just sort of went on my way and got someone else. There was also another person who I put out just because she wasn't as steady, but she still kept the house pretty nice. So they actually kept the house up really well. I don't like Baltimore City as an investor because I feel as an investor, the city is very antagonistic and manipulative towards investors and landowners. I also feel that the state courts, the district courts, the state court, Supreme Court can be very antagonistic as well. So not just antagonistic, like you're just sitting there, you're their cash cow, and since they're giving you the honor of investing in their city, they can take whatever they want from you. And so I'm going to just give you guys a few examples. But it just really seems that as soon as you are a rental property owner and you do your registration, because you have to do a $30 annual registration to be a rental property, if you don't do it, you can't evict your tenants. It's literally a question that, like in district court, you have to answer. It's a checkbox. Did you get your rental property registration? So even if they're not paying you, it doesn't matter. Did you get your rental property registration? There's also like 5 other things you have to have. Did you get your lead inspection? Did you get this? Did you get that? And so just in general, the courts are like, even if they're not paying you, it's not about that. Did you do it? You need to do first, and then we can worry about if the tenant is actually paying on time. And I invested in enough places to know other places are like, the agreement is between you and that homeowner, and it's sort of contained there. They don't have to check with 4 different agencies before they let you go through the process between that personal or individual transaction between you as a landlord or property owner and the individual as the tenant. So that's one of the big differences. I will say all of this comes from experience of investing in other places, and I was told that don't go to Baltimore, you want to deal with their BS, but no one told me what that meant. So I was just like, I don't know what you're talking about. Now that I've been through it, I'm like, oh, what you should have told me all this, what I'm about to tell you, right? And so I will just start off saying that, like, it depends on your temperament. I still help people invest in Baltimore, but I do notice there's a certain person that is uniquely, ideally situated to deal with it, and it has a lot to do with temperament. So in general, my experiences was that there was just a lot of shenanigans. I was always getting like a random fine for $60 or whatever, but it just seems like they kept making up reasons to do it. And there was an argument that that wasn't really your responsibility, your fault, or your responsibility. But there's no one you can really argue with because the person doing it is like the code enforcement or this and that. So I'll give you a few examples. One of them was like, they're a weed. So you have all these row homes and you have trees. These little square 2x3 or maybe 3x3 patches of dirt where a tree could have been, and it's on your line and the neighbors. And you know, I'm the homeowner and we have a landlord in here, but I get like the $60 fine because apparently I was supposed to pull up the grass there. But you're like, that's not mine, that's the city's, isn't it? Oh, it is the city's technically until they can get you a fine for it. So whatever. So you pay the fine and you do it. And then all of a sudden in your backyard, they're like, you get a fine for this. And then you look up and down the street and there's all these dilapidated houses and all these weeds everywhere. And I'm like, are they getting fines? Because you're nickel and diming me for my $60, which I paid. And so you just generally start getting the impression like, oh, okay, since I'm the one here, I'm investing money, I'm the one they're going to go for money, but all of this is going to look a hot mess while I get $60 here, $60 there. Another one was for a vacant property I had for a little bit, and it was an $800 bill I got sent. Wasn't my bill. Property was never turned on. I called about 4 different times, and maybe each time I spent like 30 minutes to 40 minutes because you had to wait. And each time I got like, oh, a sewer abatement. Okay, then it would come up 3 months later. Okay, a sewer abatement. Okay, then it would come up 6 months later. Okay, sewer abatement. And I'm like, this isn't mine. The water has not been turned on. This wasn't my water bill from when I purchased it. You guys are just making this up. And each time I was able to deal with it, but it's just like, for me personally, I'm just someone who doesn't have tolerance for dealing with BS, especially when I own properties in other places and I know I don't have to deal with 1/20th of what I have to deal with you guys. I don't have to call them. I don't have to talk to them. I don't get random $60 fines for things that can be honestly argued either way. That's the city's responsibility. Like, when was it mine to do that? Okay, and so you do it, but you just realize because you have no choice because they'll double the fine and then put you in tax lien sale. So you don't have a choice, so you just do it. So understand if you go, and at the end I'm going to say what you can do to prepare yourself to be in Baltimore. I just want to tell you personally why I got sick and tired of the city and what they did. Right? And so you have to pay, and you do. And at the end of the day, I made a lot of money off my Baltimore property, right? So it's like, it was low to buy, it was high rents, like it was a cash cow for the whole time. But I actually did sell it, and it appreciated a bit too, so that was pretty cool, like 40%. But the thing is, I know it made a lot of money, but the amount of time I had to get on the phone and talk to people. Whereas for the other properties, I didn't have to do any of that. I just had to really communicate and manage with the property manager. But I always had to directly deal with the city. It's really obvious. It was like this much effort and the other ones were this much. So I always tell people who want to invest in Baltimore, you need to have the right temperament. I personally am not someone who deals or wants to deal with BS or what I consider BS, or like you targeting me to get money out of me because you think I can because I'm not going anywhere. Like, I don't like feeling like the helpless victim. So I really got the impression that as soon as you do your rental property and you do your rental property registration, you're going to get all those targeted things, even if the whole neighborhood looks like crap, right? Even if the whole neighborhood looks terrible, you're the one with some overgrown weeds that are on your line in that one, and you have to get it. What else is there? There's another thing I got too, and it was $60, and it doubled to $120 before I got the letter, and I paid, and I actually got the letter from the tax lien office, and the tax lien office was like, hey, I called them up, I was like, what is this $120 for? They're like, the neighborhood enforcement, and you're like, oh, but they were like, we sent it back because it wasn't enough to go to tax lien sale. And I was like, you guys are trying to foreclose on my house for $120? I got you, okay? Because in my Richmond property, I own it cash, so I didn't pay the taxes on it for I was like 3 or 4 months late. And it was about $600. And when I finally got the notice, they didn't try to take it to tax lien sale over it. You know what I mean? So you just know the difference between. So you mean a $60 that doubled to $120 before I got it, went all the way to tax lien before I can get it, and I paid it and I got it out. But it was just like, what are y'all trying to do? All of you guys are trying to get paid. Like, there is no reason for like that level of aggression for me. So as someone who has invested in other cities and states, oh yeah, let me talk about the courts. The courts. As soon as you walk into the courts, if you're a tenant, great. If you're an investor, I'm not doing it anymore. Every single thing is like, stay in your property, and you can just tell that the court system was made to make everything happening your fault as the landlord. Everything to keep the tenant in, which is okay, but as an investor, there needs to be equality. And then when I went up there, I just found it was very much tenant skewed, very much I'm the owner. I'm at fault because I wanted to build a profitable business, and the whole general energy, and you can tell the energy, especially if you've invested in other different states and cities, you can tell what you're walking into. You can tell when it's a feeling of, hey, we're going to deal fairly with you. If you do what you're supposed to do and they do what they're supposed to do, we're done. Like, this doesn't need to drag on. But in Baltimore, it was like a 3-month process if they didn't pay just to get them to court. And it's $90 every single time you pay. So for me, in my head, I'm from Vegas, so I follow the money. I was like, okay, so the reason you guys string this along is because you get money and you don't have someone on your social services role, for housing or whatever to do this. So like, it's in your interest to draw out a long eviction notice, because I have to pay you guys $90 a month just to file different things just to finally get you in eviction court. I don't have to do that anywhere else, right? And so you're like, okay, another way to make money off of the landlords. That's how I felt about it. And you just did the general overview that like they are not in your favor as a landlord. So it's just different things. And I remember the $800 water bill that wasn't mine, that I called, and then all of a sudden they're like, you're going to have to come for a hearing. I'm like, okay, I didn't hear anything for 4 months. And then they call me on a Tuesday. I'm in Arlington, Virginia at this time. And they're like, you need to come up tomorrow, and you need to bring tomorrow for a 10 o'clock hearing, and you need to bring an affidavit from a plumber that you paid to certify that there are no leaks in the property. And you're like, what? Tomorrow? Like, how am I going to get a plumber that way? Secondly, tomorrow at 10 o'clock, I work, right? I work 9 to 5 too as well. And I was like, what in the world? And I called someone, then I called again, and we got it removed. So whoever has the house probably is dealing with it. And there's just two things that struck me about this. First of all, that wasn't mine. Secondly, the fact that they would call you and say you have to show up to tomorrow, and I'm working like everyone else in this world, and they have the balls to just tell you that, like, and you better do it. I was like, I'm so done with you guys. Bye. So you can tell when you're working with people what the flow of the government is, how they view you, what energy they approach you as. And so in Richmond, in Columbus, in Dayton, Ohio, even in Vegas, it was definitely like, hey, you do what you're supposed to do. If they don't, like, we're fine. You do what you're supposed to do. We're not trying to get money off of you. We have other sources of income. I guess like the biggest employer in Baltimore is like John Hopkins. Outside of that, it really goes down. But the general sense, the general energy, the general actions I had to take was that I'm always at fault. I'm a source of income for them. So yeah, I was making a lot of money, but you really have to work for it in ways that in other places you don't have to do. My temperament is really no nonsense. I don't got time for that. I'm someone, not everyone's like this, right? But I'm someone with like firm boundaries. So like if I don't like something, I cut it, I get away from it, I'm out, I'm done. I'm not trying to deal with this. I just don't have tolerance. I'm actually trying, as I get older and more mature, learn to be more tolerant of stuff and maybe not be so quick and decisive to cut things off. But like my natural temperament is I'm not doing this to deal with Baltimore and maybe or maybe not get out of something that probably wasn't mine in the first place. I don't like the uncertainty with that. I did not like and everyone I talked to at the city was pretty decent. Some people were rude, but like everyone, pretty decent. It is Charm City. I actually literally like people from Baltimore. They are charming. I actually really didn't mind my tenants. They didn't always like in the best way, but they never destroyed my house. They were actually pretty respectful. But the city and the district courts, it just gave me an eyes wide open view that they are petty and they're in your face about it. And no one who said they did not like Baltimore said that. They did not articulate it. They didn't give me any examples. So I'm giving this to you for whoever wants to hear it. That was sort of the reality. So I sold my property and appreciated a little bit. And we're going to buy new property here in Virginia. At the end of the day, I always work with my clients and they still invest in Baltimore. But this is what I tell them. Look, things like this is going to come up. I got through all of them. I had to spend some time on the phone I did not want to spend in the middle of a workday, but we handled it. Or we just paid the fine, or we got through it, right? So at the end of the day, you will succeed. But I also tell them, like, you need to be very organized because they're going to come at you with some stuff, and you need to have, I would get a binder specifically just for Baltimore. You can have 10 houses, get a binder for Baltimore and have every single correspondence, every single call you make, you should write it down. And just in general, I noticed that the people who do good are either they're from there. So when they try to catch them with that stuff, they're like, no, I got you. Nope, 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 and this. Like, I knew this lawyer, she was really good about like keeping contracts. I know other people who are from Baltimore, they know people in the city. If they try that stuff with them, they'll make a phone call to a friend of a friend and get things done. If you're from Baltimore, I think you could do pretty well there, as long as you know, like, because you know what to expect and how they operate. Also, and I just want to show you as a opposing viewpoint. My husband, who has infinite patience, and I have zero patience for nonsense. He has tons. He has wells of patience. He would have still kept that property because it was so profitable. Now, so he, do the phone calls, whatever, take care of it, just handle it. What's 10 extra hours a year worth of work? What's an extra 500, 200, whatever in fines? Just do it because it is so profitable. And this is where your temperament really needs to come into play, because if your temperament's like mine, don't do Baltimore. There's other cities. You can go to the county. There's other places that are just affordable and cheap to get to as that. And I help my clients find those places in Baltimore or out. And if you have a lot of patience and you go into it knowing, okay, they will randomly get you a code or neighborhood enforcement bill that may or may not be BS, just make sure they can contact you. You get it quickly. I had it in my P.O. box, so if you go 3 weeks without seeing it, that's like enough time for it to double. But like, make sure it goes to your home address so they can find you. Make sure, everything's paid for, your rental property, your lead inspection. Keep those documents and paperwork. Understand that you're going to get this randomness. I swear, every other house is a piece of crap, but they're going to get you. It just is what it is. Accept it, but you're also going to make a lot of money, right, as a rental property owner. And you can get really decent tenants who will keep your house up, right? It doesn't have to be this horror story at all with your tenants. I had great sets of them. Well, they were, pretty decent. Like, I was okay with them. They weren't perfect, but they were decent. So that's sort of how I prepare. Like, it's a mental preparation for what you're going to go into. And so I've had people I've helped and they're like perfectly fine with it, and we just find a good deal once we do the mindset shift. I have some people who invest once and then they're like, okay, my next property I'm going to do outside of Baltimore, right? And then there's some people who I talk to like this, and they have my temperament too, and they just don't want to deal with it. They choose another location. So at the end of the day, you should really be in tune with who you are. I'm just going to provide the framework of what to expect. And pretty much, let me tell you something. You think it might just be Lisa. There's just going to be there's not one investor I know in Baltimore who doesn't roll their eyes, all right? So some people put up with it, but you're not going to find anyone who's like, what? That's crazy. What's Lisa talking about? I love Baltimore. You're not going to find that. Every investor I know in Baltimore is like, yeah, it's not easy, right? It's profitable, but not easy. So that's pretty much across the board. You can go to a Baltimore area, and I'm sure there's tons of stories and war stories, right? Whereas investing in Vegas and Virginia and investing in Ohio, it's not war stories like that. Not the way Baltimore does. Everyone in Baltimore has that. So that's pretty much the general dynamic. That's what I wanted to tell you. Even though I got through all of it, it was just so much more work that other places we didn't have to do. So that is why I personally did not invest in Baltimore. If you want to know like the specific reasons what irritated me, but that also has to deal with my temperament. If I have a choice of different markets that I am comfortable investing in, I'm not going to invest in one that's profitable but more work. Like, I don't do this for extra stress or uncertainty. I do this for complete stability, stable income. Don't have to worry about it. And then on top of that, in Baltimore, the two of the property managers that I had, I did not like at the end. At the end, they each owed me like $250, and I was like, I should take them to small claims court, not because I need $250, but because of the principal, right? But like in other places, I may not have liked them, but like, I don't want to sue them, right? So it was just really hard to get like quality people who listened or who are really on point with their business and being property managers. So you add all those other little things up, and plus the big thing is the property management. It's just the one place I couldn't find decent people to manage it. And I think there's probably decent people, but in the neighborhoods that I did, the property management companies just were not the hottest. So that is what I would say. That is why I don't like Baltimore. I just wanted to give you guys a real honest personal account. None of those are insurmountable. But just understand, when you build a business, you can build whatever business you want. So just like my job is just to make sure, like when I work with my clients, I just make sure they know what they're stepping into. And if they still decide, you know what, I can understand, they might give me a random fine, they might do this, I'll just do this, this, and this, and we'll handle it. I'm like, cool, let's go. There's a lot of good properties out there, right? So that are profitable. I would just say be cautious if it's like in a across the street for a $40 million development that you're not a target for them taking it for some BS reasons. So that's basically why I was like, bye Baltimore. But if you like it, you like it. My experiences doesn't mean your experience is wrong. It doesn't mean other people experiences are wrong either. This just gives you a little bit more, like, I heard that they do this, I heard that they do that. So when you do talk to someone in there locally, you can just talk to them a little bit more knowledgeably. Well, I heard this, and give them specific reasons. I heard the court systems, I heard like law enforcement, parking and code enforcement and neighborhood, and this and that, sort of go after people even though the whole neighborhood seems to be a hot mess. And then you can talk to people on the ground, and then make your decisions from there if you want to just talk to someone else about it. But yeah, that's my experience. And if I hadn't have invested in so many different locations, Virginia is completely different than Ohio, that's just completely different from Vegas, which is completely different from Baltimore, Maryland. And so that's like 4 geographic regions. It's like the Western United States, it's the Midwest, it's the Southern United States, and it's like a northern city. So you really can tell the difference. And the only place that I said I would not invest again was Baltimore, just because of what you have to do to own, right? But the other places, you don't hear me talking bad about them, or you don't hear me talking about with any level of, oh goodness, the amount of work and frustration with them, right? So that's what investing in different parts of the country gives you, is just a different perspective. And the perspective is cash cow, but you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? And some people it is, right? Like my husband, right? He's my partner in life. It's worth it to him. His temperament is suited for Baltimore. My temperament is not. So if you have a choice of people, that's not the one I'm going to pick. I just want things to be a lot easier than what that one will give you. So yeah, any questions for anyone watching? I don't see any. Oh, there it is. John, hello, Sex for Ladies. Hello. Hey, buddy. Whenever I see your screen name, I laugh. John Guillory, first time I caught you live. Hope you're having a great day. Yes, I'm trying to catch this in between my daughter sleeping. How they view you. Yeah, how they view you. As soon as I swear, you do the rental property registration, you're the only one that has to deal with weeds in the front yard, even though there's 4-foot tall weeds all up and down these vacant properties, Kadeem Swinson, I hate Baltimore court. I had to curse everyone out in the probate office, unfortunately. I felt like cussing everybody out in the probate office, so yeah. Oh gosh, and probate's just a scam in general. They charge their fees are way too high for what they're doing. It's just a way for them to get money out of property. Money that someone built for them to absorb so that they can get a little bit more. That's what. What's the best place you invested in? All outside of Baltimore. But Baltimore was really like a lot of money. So hey, like if you have a higher temperament for it, there's money to be made. I made a ton of money off that property. If I was more tolerant of nonsense, I'd be okay with it. But I'm very sensitive about taking up my time. Like it really needs to be some important stuff, and not like me feeling singled out when all these other hot messes are on the block. So I just like, I guess, fairness and equality, you know what I mean? Not singling out. That's just diametrically opposed to who I am as a person. Like, I do believe, like, in being treated fair, and calling that out. Thank you for your insights. You know anyone that invests in Trenton, New Jersey? I just saw some guy on Bigger Pockets mentioning it. We were talking about sub 30K properties. A whole bunch of people were like, you can't make money off that. And he was like, I do good in Trenton. So you can look up Trenton, New Jersey and do a Google search there to see. Any other questions before I head off? I hope that makes sense, or just gives you a perspective of why someone will choose not to. I will say my experience is diverse. It's not a lot. Like, I don't have 20 houses. I just have a diverse set, and you really understand what's equal across the country and what is very state specific. That's what my experience gives me to know, to make a decision like that. Did I have the best ROI in Baltimore, even including all the fees? Yes. Yes, because you're going to get a higher rent. Like I have the same property, the same cost, property in Virginia, but it's 900 in rent versus like in Baltimore, that same one can be 1200. Those extra couple $100 does make a difference. But like I said, $120 that's in tax lien, and they're like, no, we shot it back. You're like, are you kidding me? Oh my goodness. Okay, I know your game. Like you're not even trying to hide it at this point. I get it. So there is a level of uncertainty there. Um, Karen, no, you're welcome. I hope you find that person. I did not. Did I put any of my properties in housing section 8? Actually, I did not in Baltimore. I thought I would, but they have because it's a major city. They have higher vouchers. So I was renting mine for 900, and most people with vouchers, a lot of people have like 1100, 1200. So they were in a different neighborhood than I was in Baltimore. Wilbur, great info. Thanks for sharing. Thank you. I'm so appreciative of people who take the time to listen and hear my expertise and experiences, and hopefully it helps give you a bigger perspective so you're more knowledgeable about whatever decision you're going to make, where you're going to invest. Yes, Roberta, the one I renovated yourself, the one I'm talking about now. Yes. Lots of money, but lots of phone calls to the city for random nonsense. They're cleaning up the city, but they're only targeting rental property owners. Like it's just such. I don't know if I wasn't from Vegas, I'd have a more different view. But I guess growing up in Las Vegas, you just learn to follow the money in a real visceral way. Like, okay, who's profiting? And every single one of these things, Baltimore profits. And if you think you have no choice as a landlord, you might think you have to take it. But every single one of these incidents, they're profiting. I'm not. And someone who might be held hostage because it's not so necessarily easy to just move an investment. But because I had invested in other places, it was real easy for me to go cut my losses, get the heck out. I can find something else somewhere else. But I can imagine people not feeling that confident that they can go somewhere else that might feel a little bit more like they're held hostage. Section 8's fine. At the end of the day, just like market rate, it's just about your tenant. It's about how much they make, can they cover, and what their credit history is will show you the proof. And pretty much going into details. Oh, you're going to Vegas in 2 weeks? All right, don't hurt yourself. I grew up there. A lot of people come from out of town. Goes to their head a little bit. But I'm going to Vegas December 17th to 27th to visit family. My daughter needs to see my side of the family, not just her husband's. So I will end the call with saying right now I have a special offer going on below. If you're on my email list, you got emails for it. But if not, you can get my common repair and estimates training. So how to sort of go in and estimate the cost of repairs. Pretty much I got this from my experience of renovating across the country, and what are the same and what is going to be different, and the difference between a low tier, mid tier, and high tier prices for different items. And so you can get that training. I go over it in detail on how for each of these aspects you can really get a good estimate. And they are estimates, but they're pretty solid estimates. And you can do that. Get that information. It's a training I put together. Usually you can see it in month 4, my monthly membership, or if you purchase my book, there's a link to it. But I'm also doing a special through Sunday if you're on my email list, where you can pick it up for $7 as a special offer to you, as well as get a 30-day free trial to the monthly membership. I hope that if you see the membership that you'll stay. 80% of people do. So I do offer that to say, hey, come on, try it, give it a board. And, it's really inexpensive too. Just, where you can get a taste and see how I teach, how I coach, what the training's like, and what kind of information you get. But mostly 80% of the people who get in it stay. So I offer this to you so you can get a chance for it, to get a taste of it. Also, if not that, you can also get a copy of the book, Investing in Rental Properties for Beginners. That's on sale, and I have a link below. And also, one last thing, I'm also going to host a 2.5-day retreat at my house in Charlottesville, Virginia, 2 hours south of DC. That will be taking place November 30th through December 2nd. It's 2.5 days. It's going to be a Friday through Sunday. Friday evening is like cocktail social hour. So whoever would like to go, you can sign up. I will put a link. I'm actually have to do some Yeah, I will be putting a link up if you are so inclined and interested. So thank you so much. Oh, okay. Did you like the book? Oh, yeah, yeah. Section 8 is fine. You just have to see in certain parts of the country, like in the South, I don't think you get much money for Section 8. So it's not like a major city where they just have to increase the amount of the voucher in order to get people to be willing to take them in. So in the major Northeast cities, it's just going to be a lot higher than in the South where, cost of living isn't that high. So just be mindful of like the rents aren't always it's guaranteed, but just make sure you're getting like the money that supports you keeping and maintaining the property and being profitable at the same time. So yeah, all those links will be below. If you do the 2.5 day retreats, it's at my home. I have an Airbnb unit that I block off, and people can come in to do it. So I will be posting links for that as well if you'd like to meet me and other investors all together at once, and we do a 2.5 day intensive where we go deep dive into each of your businesses. I limit it to well, I have 5 spaces for my coaching clients because it's part of their package to go to these for free, but I open up 5 spaces to the public for anyone who would like to join. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Sex for Ladies, for getting for for getting my book. I do appreciate it. I hope it's really helpful. Let me know in your comments how you liked it. So yeah, I'll be trying to do this at least once a week. So what I will be doing is I'll do one here and in my Facebook group because you guys sort of aren't always, I mean, they're almost two different audiences. So it might be the same subject. It might be different, but it's going to be different because these are live and they're not pre-recorded. So you might get a little bit more flavor and personality depending on the time of day and who's on asking questions. So it's just going to flow differently. Yes, I will have a meet and greet in Vegas. I will post those. How am I supposed to take you seriously with that name? All right, guys. Let's go sound real. Okay. With that, have a wonderful Saturday. Hope your Halloween was great. And hopefully I get to meet you live someday. All right. Thank you, Roberta. Bye, guys.